width or your legs long. And I might mute everyone. I'm going to mute you and then I will unmute you. So if you need to ask anything, just unmute yourselves and ask me or wave at me. So yes, settle down onto your backs with your knees bent or your legs long. And just take a moment or two to arrive. So it could be that you have 2 or 3 deep sighing breaths and just let the weight of your body settle down onto the ground. And so it's just that sense of coming to how you are right now. We are going to be moving. We're going to be bringing our attention to our breathing. And so I think just we're starting with that sense of how are you now? Is there anything in your body that presents itself to you immediately? What does your energy level feel like? And then maybe bring your hands onto the front of your body. So rest your hands somewhere on the front of your body and gather your attention into your breathing for 2 or 3 cycles of breath. So resting your hands in a place on the front of your body that feels soothing and quietening for you and helps you to connect with the movement of the breath in your body. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Good, and we won't stay here too long, but just sort of noticing how it feels to rest with your breathing. And sometimes at the beginning of class, actually it's much more difficult. And once we've moved a little bit more, then maybe it's easier to be in that sort of quiet place where we're feeling the movement of our breath. So from here, I'd like you to bend your knees if your legs are long. Bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And take a moment to feel the contact of your footprints on the floor and to feel the back of your pelvis on the ground. And then, as we often do at the start of class, start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. That's it. So rocking your knees from side to side and just noticing how this feels today, right now. So you can notice how it feels into the hip joints. And so obviously as you're tilting your knees to the right and to the left, the weight is rocking side to side across the soles of your feet. And the weight is rocking side to side across the back of your pelvis a bit. So notice how it feels across the pelvis and also into the lower back. And you can, interesting, so you can go so if you're going quite quickly, try and go a little bit more slowly for a couple of times. And if you're going quite slowly, see what it feels like to speed it up a little bit and go a bit more quickly. It's probably hard to judge, isn't it, whether you're going quickly or slowly. So maybe just try in your own time, a couple of times going slowly and a couple of times going quickly. Okay, and then just settle in the center for a moment. So it's a very sort of interesting perception, isn't it, of whether we're going quickly or slowly, and it probably depends on so many different factors. From here, take your feet a bit wider apart, so they're as wide as your mat. This is the narrow edge of your mat. So yes, if you walk your feet out, you can feel when your feet reach the edges of the mat. And come back to the same movement of tilting your knees to the right and to the left with the feet wider now. And see how this feels. That's nice. So with the feet wider, when we tilt our knees, we start to feel it perhaps even more so into the hip joints. That's it. Rashmi, you could have your feet a bit wider. That's it. I think you could have your feet a bit wider. That's it. Good. And all of you, just be aware as you're taking your knees to one side, the knee that's going down nearer to the floor, is just notice that that leg is coming along with the movement, or notice where both legs are coming along with the movement as much as they can comfortably. Because sometimes we leave one leg behind. It's usually the leg in the direction we're going to. That's nice. Now it's really up to you, because it's quite early. If this feels comfortable and you want to take your legs all the way down to one side and have a breath or two there, you could do. Or you could just keep rocking. So if it's comfortable to, let's say, let your legs come down to the right, have a few breaths there. Let your head roll to the left. So all of these things, to only stay there if it feels comfortable at this point in the day. And it is just for 2 or 3 breaths, or even 1. Yes, and then come back to the center. You might want to come back to the center, rock from side to side a couple of times before you have a few breaths with your knees going the other way. So we are focusing quite a lot today on movements around the pelvis and into the hip joints, but also, you know, integrating these with the rest of our body. So yes, if you had a few breaths with your knees going in one direction, have a few breaths with your knees going down to the other side and your head rolling in the opposite direction. And when you've had enough of that, you're going to then fold both knees into your chest and hold around the top of your knees. Good. So folding, if you're not there already, folding your knees into your chest, holding around the top of your knees, doing a little bit of rocking from side to side across the back of your body. So again, it's what feels comfortable here. You might want to let your head rock with your knees or in the opposite direction. And the other thing you're going to do here, you can do a bit like the other thing when you want to take your legs up to the ceiling and give them a shake out. That's my favourite thing, kids. Yeah, that shake out. Wonderful. And then maybe when you bring your legs back down, maybe lengthen them out on the floor and just give the legs a little roll or a little bounce. Bounce the knees on the floor. So just let the legs be long for a moment. And then when you've bounced or rolled the legs, just let them rest quietly for a moment. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And again, once more, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then bend both knees and stand your feet on the floor. And then from there, let your right knee fold in towards your chest. So fold your right knee in towards you and then let the right knee turn out to the side. So your ankle, your right ankle can come rest on your left thigh close to your knee. Beautiful. Excellent, great. So then you're going to start to rock side to side on your standing foot. Now it could be that you want to move that standing foot so it's a bit more central. So that's an option if that's more helpful or more comfortable. And just see, how does it feel to rock? That's nice, side to side on that standing foot. How does this feel around the pelvis, into the hip joints, into the ribs? And you can carry on rocking like that. But the other thing you can do here is pause in the center and on an out breath, pick your left foot off the floor and catch your hands around the back of your left thigh. So if you want to. If that's not comfortable, don't do it. That's it, Mark. If you put your, that's it, both hands through the center. Good, good. Watch me do, that's good. And some of you like to rock with your legs folded in towards you. There's some, because you're going to bring your back onto the floor And then you're going to slide your right foot a bit further down your thigh towards your groin, so towards your pelvis. Keep your legs as they were. So come back to having your right ankle on your right thigh, because you're going to slide this foot. So I need to move back a little bit. You're going to slide your right foot down towards your pelvis. You're going to hold on to the foot or use a belt so you can lengthen out your left leg on the ground. So our right leg is in half lotus. And if you can't, yes, that's it. So you either need to make sure you've got a belt around your, yes, that's it, Mark. Put the belt around your right ankle. So you've got your right ankle on your left thigh somewhere. Rashmi, I can't quite see how you're holding. If you're holding your foot with your hand, you need to be, I'm going to show you close up. You need to be holding your foot like this. Yeah, not like this. So you need to hold around the top of your foot. I'm just showing everyone close up. If you're going to hold your foot, you hold around the top of your foot, because this encourages the knee to fall away from you. If you hold the other way around your foot, you're actually, yeah, it's not so good for your knee. Good, that's very nice. And you're letting your knee drop down, drop away from you. That's it. So the front of the hip joint can open up a bit. And whenever you've had enough here, you can gently release that leg and lengthen it out on the floor as well. So we will be coming back to doing that same movement in standing. It's a balance, so has slightly more challenges at that point. So give your legs a little roll or a little bounce on the floor, and then bend both knees again and stand your feet on the floor. And then this time, fold your left knee into your chest. Take the left knee out to the side and bring the ankle to rest on your right thigh, close to your knee. That's it. So come back to the rocking side to side on your standing foot. This time your right foot. Good. Remember, you can move that foot so it's a bit more central on the floor if you want to. Very nice. Lovely. And so again, as you're rocking from side to side, see how this feels. Into the hip joints, around the pelvis, into the lower back, into the low ribs. Very nice. And then if you want to, you could stay with the rocking. If you want to pause in the center, pick your right foot off the floor, catch your hands around the back of your right thigh, you can do. So you're folding your knees in towards you. Good, and having a few breaths there. That's it. And Rashmi, at that point, relax your right foot. So your right foot, that's it. Just let your right foot flop down. That's it, towards your bottom. Good, good. Very nice. Okay, and then keep your legs like this, but bring your right foot back to the floor. So then you can slide your left foot down your thigh towards your groin. So Rashmi and Aditi, we've lost the foot, haven't we? So your left foot is now sliding down towards that half lotus position. And then you catch your foot around the top of the foot, or you loop your belt around your ankle or your foot, and you lengthen your right leg out on the floor. Now, I do think if you're using a belt, I can't see everyone using their belts. It's probably best to have the belt around the ankle rather than the foot. So do you need a belt on that side, Rashmi? Yes, it. So put the belt around your ankle. Good. That's it. That's it. Good. Very nice. And then lengthen out. Once you've got your belt around your ankle, lengthen out your... You want to let... That's it, Rashmi. Good. Drop away from you. Lovely. And have a couple of breaths there. And if you've been there for a little while, then you can really leg and lengthen both legs out on the floor. Yes. So with your own time, lengthen both legs out. You're also going, when you've released your leg and you've lengthened both legs out on the floor, you're also then going to fold your knees into your chest and just have I'm just unmuting everyone for a moment to check you're all right. I don't seem to be able to unmute everyone. Yeah. Jan has to ask you to unmute.
Sorry.
So that's all right. So I see there seems to, anyway, I have to ask Sarah at the end, the unmuting function seems to have changed. So is everyone okay? So yes, we're okay. You're off mute now. We're going to be, from our backs, rolling onto our sides. I'll keep you unmuted for a bit unless it gets too noisy. So we're going to be rolling onto our sides and coming into this one, anantasana, where we want to balance on our side. So yes, in your own time, we're rolling to here. And so this is a balance. So I always like to be, I'll probably say this before in these classes, I always like to be, am I in shot okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I always like to be propped up on my arm like this because I feel a bit more alert. You could be down like this and you could have this bottom arm like this. I don't mind. But yeah, this is how I like to be. So you're trying to feel long from your elbow or your hand through to your heels. And we can bring our top hand onto the floor in front of us. So we can just do a little bit of rocking forwards and back and try to settle on our side. So it might, you know, for some of us it can feel a really natural place to settle. For others of us it doesn't always feel so stable. So we're trying to feel that we're long and straight in this and resting on our side. And then from here, we're going to see how does it feel to come into, so we were doing that half lotus tree on our back. I want us to do a normal tree pose here. So where we're bringing our foot somewhere onto our inner thigh. So it might be that you floor and you slide your foot down a couple of times on your inner thigh, just to see where you could go to in a tree pose. So where could you go to? And if you wanted to bring your heel really up your thigh, you might need to catch onto your ankle to do that. And have a couple of breaths there. So you've got to press this top foot quite firmly down to keep that contact with your thigh. You could take this hand off the floor, see how steady you feel. And then from here, we're going to fold the knee in towards your armpit on the top side of your body. Now, if at this point you start to feel really wobbly, bend your bottom knee and slide it forwards. And then you don't have to worry so much about balancing. If you feel steady, you can keep that bottom leg long. And then from here, again, you may want your belts, but sometimes it's easier with this one just to catch your trouser leg. So we're going to catch the trouser leg or the ankle or the big toe. And we're going to lengthen this leg up towards the ceiling. So really, however you can hold on to that leg. Sometimes I feel if you use a belt, it actually makes you feel more wobbly. So it might just be that you can grab your leg in some way. And then once you've lengthened your leg out, can you stretch into your heel, or both heels, in fact? We're trying to balance here, so I know it's not always that easy. We're having a few breaths, if possible. Very nice, well done, everyone. I'm going to come and look at you on side 2 more clearly. I just want you to be able to, feel how it is on this side and also be able to watch me. And then from here, just reverse what we did. So come back to your knee coming towards your armpit. Come back into tree pose. Come back to lengthening out your top leg for a moment. And just see how it is to lie with 2 long legs and your top arm on the top side of your body. So we're back to this first balance. And then from here, roll onto your belly and just have a couple of breaths on your belly. So I would bring my hands under my forehead. You don't have to do that. You could be on the side of your head. So just lie however is comfortable on your belly for a few breaths. And see how it feels to lie on your belly. So those of you who've been coming to these classes regularly will know that we're doing quite a lot of just touching in on being on the belly, because I think it is actually really good for our breathing and enhancing our lung capacity in the back of our body. So from your belly, maybe just before we come off your belly, just give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. Wiggle your pelvis from side to side and just see if that helps you feel a bit more comfortable. And then what we're going to do is roll onto side 2 of the balance we were just doing. So roll onto side 2 and come to settle yourself on your side. So I've turned around so I can still see you, but I will come and have a bit more of a look in a moment. So settling yourself on side 2. So to start with, your legs are long. You maybe got your head propped up in your hand, or your bottom arm could be long. Or you could just be resting your head down onto bent arm. And then here, what I'd like you to do is with your top hand on the floor is this movement where we're sliding our foot up and down the inside of our bottom leg a few times and just seeing what sort of tree pose we can go to without using our hand to catch our ankle. And I will now come and have a look at you all. Very nice, that's it. Rashmi, you want to try and be as long and straight as possible on your mat, and I'm sure you are, I just can't quite see you in this position. So just making a bit more yes, as a dancer, it's always good to challenge you. So very nice, everyone. So yes, so from sliding your foot up and down your thigh, then come to a tree pose that you want to stay in. If you do that at this point, want to use your hand to catch your ankle and bring your heel further up your thigh, you can do. This is the top hand, obviously. Have a few breaths there. You might want to bring your hand back onto the floor. This tree pose one is quite hard to balance in, I find, particularly on one side. And then from here, let's fold this top knee in towards the armpit on the top side of the body. And your bottom leg could stay long, or you could bend your knee and slide the knee forwards on the floor if you feel a bit wobbly. And that's absolutely fine. And then from here, we're going to grab trouser leg, the ankle, the leg, the big toe, whatever works for you, and lengthen that leg up towards the ceiling. So this is a challenge to try to keep balancing as we lengthen out our top leg. So as some of you know, I do this pose quite a bit at the moment, and I really like it for that combination of we're down on the ground, but this is quite challenging as a balance. It's both relaxed and alert at the same time. Good. Have another breath here if you're okay. And then start to slowly reverse the movement. So start to bend this top knee. That leg comes back towards your armpit on the top side of your body. Back to tree pose. And then lengthening out that top leg. Do have this hand on the floor at any point. And then just before we come out of here, bring that top hand, that top arm to rest along the top side of your body. And then from here, we're going to rock back onto the belly just for a few more breaths. So roll over onto your belly, lie however's comfortable, give your pelvis a little bit of a wiggle. And yeah, just a few breaths. Yes, if you like that one, Sarah. So that Sarah's doing the one where we bend the knees, we take the soles of the feet towards the ceiling, and we rock the legs from side to side. So if you like that one, you can do that one. And from our belly, we're going to fold into child pose. So if you like being on your belly, have a few more breaths there. If the prospect is child pose, you might, I don't know, decide which you prefer. So from your belly, folding into child. We won't be here long, but if child pose does feel a bit challenging, Elaine, at this point, you could always be on your elbows and your knees, your forearms and your knees, rocking forwards and back. But yeah. See how does child pose feel for a couple of breaths. Sorry, I'm a bit hay fevery today. Lovely. So a couple of breaths in child pose. Very nice. And then we're going to come onto hands and knees, and we're going to do some cat. We're going to do a bit of dog. We're going to do a bit of face up dog. So sort of our hands and knees things. So come and set on hands and knees. So you've got your hands under your shoulders and your knees under your hip joints. You could just to start with, you could do a little bit of circling. Shoulders around the hands. And then once you feel settled, then rest down through your hands and your knees and start to find those cat movements of your spine. So rounding your back to the ceiling, dipping your spine down to the floor. And rounding and dipping. Somebody's got some very nice bird song going on. That's lovely. I was saying this is one of, but I think that's sort of the benefits of Zoom. It's the sort of sharing everyone's bird song. Then rounding and dipping in cat. And whenever you're ready, well, you've got two choices from here. Whenever you want to, you can either round your back, go back into child, or if you feel ready for a dog pose, you can tuck your toes under, exhale, rock your hips back, pick up your knees off the floor and see how it feels to come into dog pose. And it might well be in this phase that we really need to sort of bend this class. I was very much talking here. In dog pose, there's lots. Make sure what you're feeling is not getting stuck and tense. I think everyone is moving. I think it's my internet that has frozen you. Well done. So, yes, sorry about this. We seem to have had these. Yeah, very nice. Good. So please keep feeling that you can release tension. It might be that you want to do a couple of dog poses. When you come down in between, it might be good to sit back onto your heels and shake your hands out, or sit up and shake your hands out. So if you need, you need to use your hands out. So usually it is quite nice to do a couple of dog poses because the second one might feel a bit less tight. Again, when you're coming back into a second dog pose, really big handprints on the floor, have the hands quite wide apart. Exhale, rock the hips back over the heels, pick the knees up off the floor. How does it feel? I think that's probably one of the really helpful things about dog pose is that we get loads of feedback from our bodies. There's loads to feel, which means we're focused, we're here. We're not off somewhere else. Good, really lovely. Good, letting the head go. Fantastic. Very nice. It's wonderful, everyone. After this second dog pose, have a few breaths in child pose. But stay there as long as you like. Really nice. And then when you settle into this child pose, maybe come back to that question or that thought from the beginning of class of how does it feel to bring your attention to your breathing now? So after moving a bit more. And again, we're still almost at the beginning of moving. We're only just sort of starting to move into dog and these things. But yeah, how does it feel to feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you? And then we're going to come back onto hands and knees, and we're going to think about some of our tail wagging movements. Let's just do some tail wagging on hands and knees. So imagining that we've got a dog's tail or a fish's tail. So if we've got a fish's tail, we're swishing our beautiful tail from side to side. If we're a dog, we're wagging our tail. And you can also do the same movement by swinging your lower legs from side to side. So this one, little fishes, which moves your pelvis side to side in a similar way. And then we're going to, not with the legs, come back to the pelvis moving. We're going to use our pelvis moving, this tail wagging movement, to take us forwards and back. So take your hands a little bit further forward, so you're in a longer hands and knees now. And what I would like you to do is moving your pelvis from side to side, rock back towards child, and swinging your pelvis from side to side, coming forwards towards face up dog. Yeah, this one. So we're moving in this, I suppose it's more of a snake-like movement now. Our pelvis is swinging from side to side, and that's what's taking us forwards and back. So we're sort of sneaking ourselves into that face up dog movement. So, yeah. And obviously don't do anything that doesn't feel comfortable for your body. And when you've had enough of this, then just go all the way back into child pose. But most of you I know are really familiar, we do these a lot. So you might want to take the weight off your wrists for a moment and just have a breath or two in child pose. We'll do a little bit more face. Maybe we'll just do it, yeah. Very nice. Let's have another lengthen out in down dog. I call it that, but that's obviously what it is. Let's have another lengthen out in that, and then we'll do a bit more face up dog in a slightly different way. So come on, hands and knees, plant your hands down, tuck your toes under, exhale, rock your hips up and back into dog pose. And yeah, see how it feels to come into this other dog pose. Having done the face up dog poses, and those of you who have dogs or who have owned dogs will know that whenever dogs get up, they do their dog poses. So, and also apparently when they're happy, they do their dog poses. Very nice. So when we come back down, we're going to use our cat movements to go into face up dog. So if you need to give your hands a little shake out, just sit in kneeling for a moment, and you can, and most of you are really familiar with this, you know this, but you can watch me if you like. So again, from a long hands and knees position, we're going to round our back to the ceiling, stay rounded, rock our hips back over our heels, and then on an out breath, travel forwards, rounding the back until we come into face up dog, and then we reverse that movement, so rocking back. So your starting point is this long hands and knees position. So your hands are further forwards than your shoulders. You're going to tuck your toes under, round your back to the ceiling, staying rounded, rock your hips back over your heels. Let a breath come in, and then as you exhale, round your back to the ceiling, travel forwards with your pelvis until your shoulders are over your hands, and then let the pelvis go. And then reverse the movement. Start to travel back, rounding your back, tucking your toes under. Let a breath come in, back in that child pose with your toes tucked under, and then again, rounding your back, traveling forwards into your face up dog, letting the pelvis go when you're forwards. Very nice. You can do that one more time if you like. So rounding back, toes tucked under, and then remember traveling forwards as you exhale, rounding your back to the ceiling, looking at your pelvis coming forwards rather than looking forwards. I will just have a look at you, and then after that one you could, that's nice, rock back into child pose. Beautiful. Very nice, everyone. Yes, that's nice, very good, beautiful, lovely, lovely. Yeah, have a couple of quiet breaths in child pose now with your feet flat on the floor. Very nice, good, good. So we're going to make our way into standing through one more dog pose and coming into a forward bend. But in this dog pose, I would like you to work into the feet a little bit. So maybe just come into kneeling, or so you can watch me. This again will be familiar to you. This one where we roll 1 foot at a time onto tops of the toes. Yeah, so it really stretches through the front of the ankle. This one. Oh, yes. So it's good for the toes, but I suppose what I really like about it is it really stretches into the front of the ankle. And probably like many of you in lockdown, I have been doing a bit of running, so all of these things just feel really great. But if you haven't been doing running, if you've been doing a lot of walking or cycling, I think all these things for the ankles are just really fantastic. I know that's somewhere I can get very tight. So 1 foot at a time, rolling onto the tops of the feet. Seeing how that feels. And again, I find it really helpful because that's very nice. You get a lot of I feel a lot of feedback coming in. I can really feel that stretch. And when we really feel something, then we're there in our bodies. So when you've done that a few times through each foot, maybe just have a few breaths in dog pose. And then from your dog pose, you're going to be slowly walking your hands into your feet, coming into a forward bend, letting your head go, letting your arms go. If your lower back needs some support, you're going to rest your elbows on your thighs. Bend your knees as much as you like. Just make sure in your forward bend, all of your weight's in your feet now. Your head is hanging. Let a breath come in, and as you exhale, roll up into standing. Or walk your hands up your thighs if your lower back needs support. And we're up in standing. So at this point, it's very nice to see everyone. Most of you, I can't see your faces now, but it's still very nice to see you. Don't move your devices. It's absolutely fine. Let's do this one. Yes, Rashmi and Aditi, you can spread out so you don't hit each other. Let your feet come along with this one. If you see the back heel, my back heel is picking up as if I was going to spin all the way round, but I'm not going to. And you can be slapping your arms onto your body, your hands rather, onto your body. Just really, I really like that as a sort of wake up. If you don't like slapping your hands onto your body, you don't have to do it. A couple more times. Good. Let that go. Just have a little shake out. And then settle your feet down so they're hip width apart and parallel. And then let a breath come in. And as you exhale, we're going to take the arms up. And as we've been doing a lot recently, this reaching up through one arm and then the other. Reaching up. That's it. So as you reach up, shift your weight into the leg of the arm you're reaching up through, yeah? So if I'm reaching up through my right arm, I'm shifting my weight into my right leg. So just feel this length all the way through that side of the body. And then what we're going to do is pause in the center, let a breath come in, and as you exhale, sweep forwards into a forward bend. Good. Very nice, lovely. And have a few breaths. Bend your knees as much as you like. And then letting your breath come in as you exhale, sink into your heels, roll up into standing. And then we're going to start doing, my family have just arrived back from a dog walk. In terms of quiet, could we have a little bit of quiet out here in the hallway, please? Okay. Apparently Otto has sunstroke, but I think he'll be okay. So this is the dog. So let's start we're drawing a big circle with one arm. And as you're circling your arm, you're letting your body move. Yeah, so to make it easier. And you can circle the other way. Yeah, so you're drawing this big circle with your arm, but you're making sure your body is moving. So your pelvis in particular, your feet, so you can feel the weight is shifting in your feet. Good. Maybe go back the other way again. Do keep changing directions in this. Okay. Good. Come on to the other side. And so again, you're circling your arm, you're letting your pelvis move. And then go the other way. We'll shake out now, both arms, both legs. Again, settle the feet down, hip width apart. Let a breath come, your arms wide to the sides. And then exhale, give yourself a hug. And drop your shoulders down away from your ears. Yes, I'm afraid so, Helen. We're doing this one. We've done it for a few. Now, first of all, keep your arms in a hug. Your pelvis with your shoulders and your ribs from side to side. So can you do this sort of funny little twist where we're not moving below the waist? We're moving the shoulders a little bit from side to side. And then we're going to pause in the center and we're going to bring our arms forwards into eagle arms. So this one, which we all know well. And then from here, I'd like you to take your feet a bit wider apart. So take your feet as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. And we're going to go into a forward bend with our arms in this position. So let a breath come in as you exhale. Folding forwards, bending your knees as much as you like. Just, I forgot to say to have a particular arm on top. So just have a look and see which arm you've got on top. So you're going forwards with your arms. How have you got your arms, Rashmi? That's it. Forwards with your arms like this. And then check which arm's on top and then release your arms to the floor and be heavy and floppy. Big exhalation. And then let a breath come in. As you exhale, sinking down into your heels, rolling back up into standing. And then step your feet back so your feet are hip width apart again. Hello, Otto. Let a breath come in. Give yourself a hug with the other arm on top now. Hopefully you can remember. Again, do that little twisting movement. So we're trying to leave the pelvis where it is. Turn the ribs and shoulders from side to side. Now, I wasn't quite sure, Rashmi, whether you were clear about this arm one. So in this one, we have one elbow in the other elbow. We start with the backs of the hands touching, and then the hand that's furthest away from you moves round to touch palms like this. So, and Helen, if you need a reminder of this one. So there we are. So from here, the hands have come round to here. And then like we did on the other side, step your feet a bit wider apart. Let a breath come in as you exhale, folding forwards, bending your knees as much as you like, letting your head and your arms be heavy. And if you like having your arms crossed like that, if it's helpful in your forward bend, keep them like that. If you need to release, whenever you need to release them, do. So in your own time, let your arms flop down to the floor. And just let the arms be really soft. Good. Good. And then let a breath come in as you exhale, sink into your heels, roll up into standing. Now, keep your feet this width apart this time when you come back up into standing. So if you've walked your feet in, so your feet as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. And then come into some of these side lengthening movements. So we're reaching up with one arm. The bottom arm is heavy and floppy. I am shifting my weight again into the leg of the arm that's reaching up. So I'm shifting my pelvis from side to side. You don't have to, but yeah, I like that feeling. So just make sure it feels comfortable. So a few times this length through the side of the body. We'll be here all day, won't we, trying to balance ourselves out. So eventually we'll have to stop this one. And I'm sure we're plenty balanced enough. We can have a little shake out. So we're going to come on now in a moment to a couple of balances. Let's just start with a very simple balance to get a sense of how steady or otherwise we're feeling today. If you know you're not feeling very steady and you want your fingers on a wall or a mantelpiece, please move where you are. So let's first of all start by settling the feet down, hip width apart and parallel, closing the eyes and rocking your weight over one leg and foot and then the other. So you're swaying from side to side. And as you're doing so, you're just seeing, is there one leg that you feel more drawn to standing on? So let your arms hang. And then you're going to open your eyes and you're going to bring your weight onto whichever foot you feel more drawn to standing on. If there isn't one, then just make a choice. Bring your weight more onto that leg and foot. Come up onto the ball of the other foot. And then all we're going to do is bring that foot to stand on the standing foot. And it might be that you want to bring your hands to your breastbone to help you feel a bit more steady. Just very simple. Sometimes the simple balances are harder, aren't they? Because there's less to focus on. Yeah, how does it feel? And it's fine if you wobble and you have to bring your foot to the floor for a moment, that's absolutely fine. See if you can have a couple more breaths here. And then come down. Try the same thing on the other side. It might be quite hard out and bring your hands to your breastbone. Start, that helps. Shifting your weight onto the other foot, come up onto the ball of the foot you just stood on. And then now this very simple balance. We're not doing anything fancy. We're just bringing one foot to stand on top of the other foot. Seeing if we can have a few breaths here. And remember, it's interesting, isn't it? So this is possibly the harder side to balance on, but we might surprise ourselves as well. I was just thinking, come down, have a little shake out. I was just thinking, oh, this side feels easier. And as soon as I thought that, I fell out. So I think the more we can just be in the balance without all these judgments, of course, keep coming in. We're going to move on to tree pose. So just think about it. You've got all these options in tree. You could have your foot right down on your ankle. You could have your heel sort of halfway up your inner leg, just above the knee. Or you could catch your ankle and bring your foot right up onto your inner thigh. So any of these is absolutely fine. You choose what's best for you today. And then once we've organised ourselves from below the waist, we'll bring our hands into prayer pose and then maybe take our arms up. So come back to the first foot you stood on. That process of shifting your weight onto that foot. So come up on the ball of the other foot. And then just see where today are you going to bring the other leg. And then once you're organised below the waist, bringing your hands into prayer pose. And just seeing if you can settle there. And again, it's fine if you fall out. Just come back into it. If you feel steady, the arms can come up The shoulders stay down. So this is when we become most tree-like. So we're alive into our fingertips. That feeling of our awareness traveling through the whole of ourselves, from our heel up to our fingers. From here, you could gather back in again, bring the hands back down into prayer pose, Anjali Mudra in front of your chest. Good. We'll have a shake out. And then we'll come on to side two. So just again, I always like to start by looking at my feet, checking they're still there, checking they're well organized, and then starting to shift the weight onto the second foot. So up on the ball of the foot you just stood on, and then wherever you're going to bring your foot on this side. Good. And then once you're organised from the waist down, bringing your hands into prayer pose. Settling. Breathing. And if you feel steady here, then the arms can grow up. So the shoulders stay relaxed, you stay soft and quiet through the front of the body. Here you feel soft into the centres of the palms. You feel the breath flowing through you. And again, it might be nice to gather back into the centre, this feeling of settling with the hands back in Anjali Mudra at the heart. Also at this point, maybe we're sort of noticing the muscles in the standing leg starting to get a bit tired. And so it might be the time to come down and shake the legs out. So we're going to come into a forward bend and just let the brain have a bit of a breather. So feet hip width apart. Rolling into the forward bend, and actually from your forward bend, if you want, not you Elaine, if your lower back would appreciate it, you can head down into a squat. If I didn't say about books or blocks, but if you need anything under your heels come up, folding down into a squat. So it might be that you roll up the back of your mat under your heels. I mean, it's fine if your heels come up, but if you've come down into a squat, it really isn't a problem if your heels come up. But if you've come down into a squat, what we're looking for is this feeling of the pelvis being heavy to lengthen out the lower back. Let's reverse this movement. So if you have put something under your heels, remove it now. Come forwards onto the balls of your feet. Start to send your heels down and your sit bones up. So you come into a forward bend. Let your head go, let your arms go. And then as you exhale, rolling up into standing. Good. And having a shake out once you're up here. So is everyone okay? Are we all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, good, good. Okay, good. I'm sorry it's a little bit noisy here. My family have come back. I want them to be quiet. Okay. I'm just going to tell them to be quiet. So get your belts or scarves at the moment. Put the waist down, please. Right, so we're going to come into that. We did it on our backs, obviously a little bit easier. We're going to do the half lotus tree pose. Now, if you are going to use a belt, so it really depends, it might be quite good to start with your fingers on the wall. And if you're going to use the wall, you stand on the foot furthest from the wall, yeah? So, because you need to be able to catch your foot using your hand or your belt without having to use the hand that's on the wall. Yeah, so if you're going to, I'm just saying, particularly if you're going to use a belt, it might be good to start off with your fingers on the wall. So in this one, you've got your belt or your scarf. It really depends. If you can catch your foot, then you can hold your foot. You need to again hold around your foot, not over the sole of your foot like this, around the top of your foot, or you're catching your belt around your ankle. And if you're using a belt or scarf, you want to hold as close to the ankle as you can. So you don't want this sort of bent elbow out to the side too much. So you're really trying to take the weight of the leg in your belt. And I will come and have a look at you in a moment. If you're organised and your knee is dropping down, it's quite nice then to bring this arm up to the ceiling. So the knee drops down. That's it. Good, very nice, lovely, beautiful, well done. Really quiet through the front ribs. That's it, Linda. Just think about letting the front of your body quieten back. Beautiful. Yeah, so taking the arm up, that's nice, Jan, with the hand on the breastbone. So you might have been in there long enough and want to come down. But yes, these are the sort of arm options. Taking that arm up, I really like, but you can also bring that arm around the back of your body. And it might be your fingers can come sort of where to your elbow or just around your back. So that's another option. Come down. I side 2. Your legs a little bit of a shift. Okay, are we all back again? I think somehow I might out for a minute. Yeah, I think. Yeah, we're all back again. It cut us. Yeah, we got cut off, and I got muted. So have we done side 2 of our half lotus balance? No. No. Or not yet? Side 2 or not yet? Are we doing side 2 now? Yes. Not yet. Okay, so coming into the second side of this balance then. So, and remember, if you're going to use the wall, you need to stand with the foot you're standing on is the one furthest from the wall. Let me just spotlight my video because I don't think it's done that either. Yeah, okay. Spot them now. It should be all right. Sorry about this. Good. So on side 2, very nice. Remember, you've got those different options with the arm that's not holding the foot. You can be taking the arm up towards the ceiling. So we've got this feeling of the knee dropping down in the opposite direction to the fingertips, which are reaching up. And there's also the option of wrapping that arm around the back of your body. And that gives you something to breathe back towards. Come down and have a little shake out. And so again, we're going to come back into a forward bend and we're going to come down into a squat again. So if you didn't have a book or a block or something for your heels last time and you needed it, maybe have it to hand. So feet hip width apart. You're going to roll down into your forward bend. Elaine, you're just going to do your forward bend. And then have a few breaths in your forward bend. And it's up to you. If you want to do the squat, it's just because it can be nice for the lower back. So from your forward bend, bending your knees forwards, letting your tail drop down. If your heels come up and you have a block to hand, slide something under your heels. So we've got this feeling of the pelvis, the weight of the pelvis dropping down towards the floor. And then when we come out of our squat, we throw away our block. We come forward onto the balls of our feet, and then we start to send the heels down as we send the sit bones up. Back into a forward bend, let a breath come in, and then rolling all the way back up into standing. And then have a little shake out at this point. So we've got one more thing we're going to do in standing. Let me just show you. So it might be two things, but we're going to come into having our feet wider apart. The first thing we're going to do is just a bit of shifting our weight from side to side. You can move your hands or not move your hands. So just this sort of easing into it. So we'll do that first of all, and then you'll stay, maybe just watch though, because you'll stay in the same forward bend. Once we've done this, you'll then organise yourself with your legs doing the same thing, not bending or both bending. And we'll do this twist in the middle. Turning, maybe bringing the arm up. If you look at me on the other side, I can't actually comfortably bring my top arm up. So I wouldn't, I would just come to here. So it might be that, again, you're going to need a book or two under your hands. It can be quite nice to have that hand flat on the floor. So you also might want to have those to hand. So you're coming into, so first of all, you're coming into this wide forward bend. Don't go sort of, when I say this to rush me, don't go ridiculously wide. Not anyone. So comfortably wide. Your feet are parallel still. And with your fingers on the floor or on a block or a book, just play around with bending one knee, bending the other, as long as your knees are happy with that. So a bit of sort of that, so easing from side to side. Yeah, so you were right, Aditi and Rashmi, just make sure you don't bump heads. Yes, that might. Good. That's it. So a bit of sort of shifting from side to side. And then when you're ready to settle down and try the twist, at this point, you want to make sure that your legs are both doing the same thing. So it's fine for both knees to be a bit bent or both legs to be straight. But what we're trying to do now is not move below the waist. And then we've got our, so one hand is on the back of the pelvis. The other hand, maybe the fingers or the knuckles or the flat of the hand is on the floor or the book. And we're turning in one direction, but it's the shoulders and the ribs that are turning. We're trying not to let the pelvis move. And we can try going from side to side a couple of times. Moving as you exhale. Like for me, one side is much harder than the other. I feel much more restricted, and on that side I don't take my arm up because it just doesn't feel very comfy. Good. That's it. Aditi, keep your weight well in your heels. Yeah, so your weight needs to be in your heels, not your hand. Your hand is very light touch on the floor to stabilize yourself. Good. Good. That's it. You're trying to feel your spine is as long and straight as possible. Good. And when you've done that to each side a couple of times, then just let yourself flop forwards in the center, but sink into your heels. And then from there, sink into your heels and come all the way up into standing as you exhale. And then don't leap out of that one. Ease yourself out and give your arms and legs a shake out. So we're going to come down from the back of our mat through forward bend into dog pose. If you want to do any of the one-legged dogs, I probably don't need to show you, but I will. So you might want to spend longer in your forward bend. If you want to, after that, do any of these one-legged dog variations, you can do. And then down into a forward bend. So come into the back Grab your mat. Width apart and parallel. And then as you exhale, rolling down into a forward bend. Big exhalation. And then walking your hands forwards. Mary. Walking your hands forwards into dog pose. That's nice. Lengthening out in dog. And if you feel that you want to, it might be quite nice after the wide forward bend to do some of those one-legged dog poses. So the one I like is lengthening one leg up and back and really reaching into that heel and letting the pelvis tilt. So you're not trying to keep your pelvis level unless you want to. That's nice. Good. And none of these ones, when you're doing your one-leg dog poses, you're not trying to stay there, really. You're just exploring the movements and then moving on. That's lovely. Good. Rashmi, you look very, very long in your dog pose. I don't know whether it's slightly better to have your feet a little closer into your, yeah, your hands a bit closer to your feet closer to your hands. I don't know, see how it feels. You might like it being long. Good. So obviously, if you're doing your one-leg dog poses, do them on both sides. Maybe have then a couple of breaths in just normal dog pose and then folding down into child pose and having a few quiet breaths. Okay, so have another couple of breaths in child pose, and then we're going to be doing some movements in sitting before we sit for some breathing. So we're going to come first of all into Cobbler Pose. I think you're all happy. So yeah, so coming into Cobbler Pose and leaning back onto your hands. And just, yeah, see how it feels to be in Cobbler movements here. So, yeah. Hands beside you, so you could hold onto your feet or ankles. So see what's a little bit from side to side. If Cobbler Pose, you know, we're not going to be here that long. You might find sometimes bringing your forwards makes it a bit easier. You've got all these things that you can try. Sort of rock side to side. Let's just then do a little bit of circling. Can you circle your body at all? So just sort of draw a circle around your sit bones by circling your body in one way and then the other. And then let's try just as a final one. Let's just do a little bit of leaning to one side and then the other. So you can lean into one hand and then the other, and then you can start to just make it into a little side lengthening movement. So lean and reach. Okay, we won't spend any longer in child pose for the moment. For those of you who are not so keen, we will unsurprisingly move on into pinwheels. So let's let this one knee, doesn't matter which, one knee come on top of the other knee and lean onto the hand that you've taken the knees towards, and then slide this top leg back. So you're coming into pinwheel. You can do a little bit of circling here. So you expect here to feel a bit lopsided. Your weight is going to be much more on this, probably on this leg, on this sit bone. A little bit of circling. And then from here, we'll come to our pinwheel forward bend. So we're going to turn towards this leg where the knee is coming out to the side. Turn your body to line up with this thigh, and then fold forwards over that leg. And you can, you can have your hands on the floor. Some of you might have your elbows on the floor. Some of you might touch your forehead to the floor. It doesn't really matter. Just see where you can go to comfortably and have a few breaths here. So for me, this is always a place where I can sort of feel quite quiet. I'm sure that's not the case for everyone, but if it is somewhere you feel happy, then have a few breaths. If you're not so happy, you can always walk your hands in a bit more. And then from here, I was just thinking, as we move on, you'll probably feel less happy. So you'll probably be wanting to be back in pinwheel. So walking your hands in. What we're going to do from here is slide this knee back a little bit. So what I'm thinking about now is that my leg has come, sort of is lined up with the long edge of my mat. That doesn't really matter, but you're just sliding that knee back a bit so that we can lengthen out this leg by tucking the toes under. So we're coming on into pigeon. And for some of you, it might be that you're a bit off to the side to protect this knee. Yeah. So if this knee needs protection, then be a bit off to the side. If that front knee is fine, you can let your pelvis roll over so your pelvis is level. And you've got to bring your hand onto your back to feel that. And I will just come and have a look at you. So maybe just be on your forearms. And I'll have a little look and see how you are. Good. Yeah, very nice. Beautiful. So are you okay there, Nigel?
I think I've gone as far as I can.
That's fine. It looks beautiful. So I think just see if you can soften and even enjoy it, maybe. I know that might sound a challenge. So if wherever you are in pigeon, I think those are probably good for everyone. Can you soften your shoulders? Can you breathe? Can you enjoy? Can you enjoy it? That would be good. If you're in pigeon, you can be on your forearms. You can be down on your forehead, or you could be up on your hands. And it's worth just sometimes trying these different possibilities. So obviously I'm saying I'm serious about enjoying it as much as possible. But I suppose what we're looking for in these movements is for the pelvis to feel heavy. We're giving the weight of the pelvis to the ground. And then it just gets better because from here, we're going to be moving into cow legs. So we're going to rock our weight back onto this front leg hip. And then we're going to swing our back leg all the way over. I'm just swiveling around so you can see me. So we've come into cow legs. Now, at this point, yes, Nigel, so you could be here and stand. So yeah, this foot could stand on the floor or it could stand on the floor here. So if this doesn't work for you with your foot coming over, all the way over the bottom leg, you can bring your leg back to here and stand this foot on the floor. And then you can hold on the leg to help. Fine. Another option, if your bottom knee is not happy, so Nigel, this is another option, is to lengthen out the bottom leg. So sometimes that works better. Can you just turn a little bit in each direction? Is that possible? Yeah, that's it, Nigel. I think lengthen out the bottom leg, and then this top leg, either the foot stands on the floor or you bring the side of the foot to the floor. Is that better to have the, and lean back onto both hands. Yeah, that's it. No, that's really nice. Well done. Good, good. So you might not want to twist. You might just want to be there. You might not, or you could turn there. So if we're twisting, we're just thinking about turning in each direction, and just seeing if we can give ourselves a few more breaths to be happy. We'll lean back. We'll ease our legs out. We'll give it a roll and a shake. And then let's come back to here, back to heart, to on Cobbler Pose here. Are we still there? In and out a little bit.
Yeah.
Are we there in pinwheel? Even if I can't see you in pinwheel, sometimes it gets a little bit delayed. So yeah, so we're on the wheels. One knee pointing out to the side, the other knee coming towards the centre. We're doing a little bit of rocking, circling, rocking, settling. We can fold forwards over this leg that's going out to the side. So we can come into our pinwheel forward bend and see how that feels. And we can also visit Pigeon Pose on this side. So it's up to you. If you want to have a few more breaths in your pinwheel forward bend, you can do. Probably if you know what's coming, you might want to stay there longer. If you're raring to move on to Pigeon Pose, you walk your hands back in. You slide this knee back a little bit. You're sliding your knee back a little bit so you can then lengthen out your back leg on the ground, tucking your toes under. So tucking the toes under is really helpful in terms of lengthening that leg out, reaching it back behind you. And then coming over onto your forearms. Forearms is a good starting point. And then it might be from here you want to try going a bit lower, forehead coming down onto the floor or to the back of your hands, or coming up onto your hands. And let's think about our intention in Pigeon Pose or wherever we are. Looks very nice there, Nigel, is to enjoy it, to release tension, to try and feel more ease in the body, and also to feel that we're giving the weight of the pelvis to the ground, particularly as we exhale. And then again, if you want to, a few more breaths in Pigeon Pose, and when you're ready, it's on into the joys of cow legs. So rolling onto the top of that front leg thigh and then swinging your back leg around and seeing how this side is. And so remember, we've got all these options. This top leg can come back to here. Yeah, the bottom leg, I think that works well, Nigel, lengthening out the bottom leg. And for anyone whose bottom knee, so Elaine, if your knee isn't happy in this, lengthening out the bottom leg can be really helpful for the knees. And then let's just have a little bit of a wiggle, a little bit of a settle. If you want to, a bit of turning. Move from one direction in the other. I'm not quite sure what's happened today. We said I had loads of other things we were going to do, but either I completely mistimed it, or we just took a little bit longer. Maybe because it's warm. So what we're going to do now is we're going to let our legs lengthen out. We're going to do a little bit of breathing and sitting, and then we'll take that breathing into lying down. So lengthen the legs out. And then just think about how it's going to be comfortable for you to sit. So it might well be with your back against the wall. It could be on a cushion. You could be kneeling. Your legs could be bent or long. So it's really about coming into what's most comfortable now. And I will in moments mute everyone. So, yes, maybe I'll mute everyone at this point. Yeah, I'm going to mute you all at this point, I think. So yeah, coming into sitting, and it's quite simple what we're going to do. We're going to bring our hands, once we're settled, we're going to bring our hands onto our low ribs, and we're going to feel the breath in this part of the body. And then we'll have a little mini breather, and then we'll come back to it, and we're going to work with our pausing breath, our viloma breathing, which I realised is what we were doing in the very last classes we had here. So we're coming back to it now after, I don't like to think, probably quite a while of not being here. So just wherever you are in sitting, maybe a little bit of circling. circling, rocking, swaying, whatever you feel like. These things are just soothing and settling. You know, the things that we would, you know, do to comfort a child are things that also help us to settle. Okay. So settling down, and we're going to bring the hands here onto the low front ribs. So I've got my thumbs going round to the back, which is quite helpful here. So we want to feel that the shoulders drop, and just see if we can feel the movement of the breath in these low ribs. So closing your eyes if you like. So as you breathe in, giving the breath time to travel all the way down through to the bottom of the lungs, so those low ribs can widen. And as you exhale, giving the breath plenty of time and space to leave you, so you empty completely and these ribs narrow. Make sure your head is balanced on the top of your spine. Good. And you're letting your shoulders be as relaxed as possible. If you're sitting with your back against the wall, try to avoid leaning the back of your head on the wall. Try to keep your head just balanced on the top of your spine. We have one more cycle of breath here, then we'll give the hands a little rest. Just rest your hands, rest your shoulders for a moment. And we're going to, in a moment, bring our hands back to our ribs. And what we're going to do is focus on our inhalation. So we're going to be pausing in the middle of our in-breath with the hands on the ribs. So you're going to let a breath leave you. And then as you start to breathe in, let half of your breath come in. And then pause for a moment and then carry on letting your breath come in to the end of the inhalation. And then a long, quiet out breath. And then breathing, let the breath come in, pausing halfway through the breath, just for a moment, and then letting the rest of your inhalation fill you. And then a long out breath. We're going to do that for 3 more cycles of breath. Receiving the inhalation, pausing, and then receiving the breath to the end of the inhalation. And then emptying with a long out breath. So 2 more. Receiving the in-breath, pausing, receiving that breath to the end of the inhalation. Long exhalation. And then 1 more cycle of breath in your own time, pausing in the middle of the inhalation for a moment. And let your hands rest down with as little fuss and bother as possible. You're going to lie down onto your backs now, and we will bring the hands onto the front of the body, and we'll pick up with just a slightly different version of that breathing on your backs. So settle down onto your backs. Make yourselves as comfortable as possible. So we're going to focus now on the feeling of the breath in the belly. So I'd have your hands on your belly, or it could be on your low ribs. And just give yourself a few cycles of breath to settle in lying down, with the hands on the belly. So you're gathering your attention into the movement of your breath in your belly. And then what I would like you to do for, say, let's say maybe 4 or 5 cycles of breath is to focus on the exhalation and pause in the middle of your out breath. So let a breath come in, feel the belly rise a little bit, and then start to let your breath leave you. So exhaling, and then pause for a moment, and then let the out breath go to the very end. And again, receive your in breath. Feel your belly rise a little bit, and then exhale. Pause. And the end. Let the breath come. And then again, exhaling half the out breath. Pause. 2 more cycles of breath to see if you can stay with that pause in the middle of your out breath. Keeping it very quiet, very relaxed, no feeling of force or strain. Just receiving your in breath, letting the out breath go with that little moment of quiet. And after your final cycle of the viloma breathing, the pausing breath, just then let everything go. You can keep your hands on your belly if you like, or you can bring your arms out on the floor beside you. And feel the contact of the ground beneath the back of your body. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. So in a moment, I'm going to ring the singing bowl as time is moving on. But just if you can, just carry on lying until you've heard the 3 sounds of the bowl. So thank you, take your time, there's no rush. I'm going to just switch off the recording.